Because if we were to transpose ourselves to another time, another era, then the topic would not be one of concern. The concept of democracy did not even exist, except in history, where a small state in Greece practiced a form of governance which was known by the philosophers of the time as democracy. And it is very interesting to note that a number of Greek philosophers themselves considered democracy to be an unbefitting and weak and corrupt form of governance. In fact, one of the great Greek philosophers said that one of the major problems with democracy, as it was practiced then by the Greeks, was that the leader would always have to pamper to the desires and the whims of the people in order to gain their support. And thus a leader would not be able to take the firm, decisive and conclusive decisions, and a leader would not be able to take the morally sound decisions that a leader should, because by doing so he would have to contradict the opinion of the masses, he would lose their support, and therefore would not be able to continue his position as a leader. Even then, those many hundreds of years ago, the Greek philosophers had already expounded and discussed some of the weaknesses and the deficiencies of this system. And it is only relatively recent history that this idea of democracy has been reinvented and reintroduced, and has been spread mostly by, first of all, Britain, or perhaps to be fair, perhaps first of all France, and then Britain and America, this concept of democracy as the ideal form of human governance, the ideal way through which and by which human beings should govern their affairs. Now, really to go into the historical and philosophical context and causes of development of democracy is beyond the scope of our lecture today. And even if we had time, I myself personally do not have the resources at hand to be able to deliver such a lecture. And also I question the benefits of going too deeply into such issues. Now, I know that there are many voices in the world today that are leveling their criticism towards Islam and what they call Islamic fundamentalism, or the Islamist voice, and reflecting the Nawab's very precious statement and reminder and call for unity amongst Muslims, I would first of all like to add to that: beware of allowing ourselves and allowing the agenda to be set by the non-Muslims for us. Then how about the case of democracy? How about the case of democracy? Of course, the controversial issue is this: what is democracy? What actually is democracy? That's a good question. You see, no one is actually really ready to define democracy. All they will tell us is democracy is good, democracy is right. What is democracy? Well, there's lots of different versions of democracy. They don't really want to define it because they know that every definition they give does not actually realistically describe the system of government that they call democracy that they are practicing. Abraham Lincoln described democracy as the government of the people, for the people, by the people. This is one famous definition of democracy. In fact, the actual word democracy itself means in the original Greek, rule of the people. That's what it means. If we take the concept of democracy in its absolutely pure sense, its literal meaning, the rule of the people, for the people, by the people, and that's all we're doing right now. We don't pretend to get any more sophisticated. Let's just take that meaning and examine that meaning, because at least that's one we can start with. Then is this something compatible with Islam? This is very important to understand that. So therefore, now let's go back and let us ask, if democracy means that sovereignty is with the people, that the people have the right to decide what's halal and haram, and it's up to them, then no Muslim with any mustard seed's worth of iman can agree with this. Just to illustrate, I want to tell you a joke. It's not true, it's a joke. There was this man who he emigrated from the United States of America, from San Francisco. He emigrated to Afghanistan. You know, when the Taliban were in power, he went to live there. So they said to him, they were asking him, it's just a joke, it's not true. They asked him, why did you leave the land of the free and the land of the brave, America, with all the money and all those nice things and everything you want, and you came to live in Afghanistan? Why? He said, when I was a young man, homosexuality was a crime. When I grew up, they made homosexuality lawful. In fact, they made it a crime not to dislike homosexuals and call it homophobia. He said, I was afraid if I stayed around in America any longer, they would make it compulsory. And really, if we think about it, this is the case of democracy. If you say the sovereignty are with the people, and the people can legislate and the people can decide, I mean here on the very basic philosophical level. I know that countries have constitutions. I know that different ideas of democracy encompass different limitations for minorities and so on and so forth. But that's not what I'm discussing. I am discussing the very basic concept, and that's it. At the very basic concept, we all have to agree as Muslims that making a crime which is a crime in Islam, to say it is actually a crime to have a problem with this crime. Do you understand what I'm saying? It's a criminal offense in England to revile someone because of their homosexuality. So now it has been made a crime to hate the crime. Can we accept this as Muslims? Can we say that Islam is compatible with this? Does any person in this room think that this type of ideology is compatible with what Allah has revealed?